Welcome on in, the real Kyper and Bourne show. This is the Leaf edition. We are on Sportsnet 590, Sportsnet 360, Sportsnet Plus from 4 to 6. Sammy McKee, Justin Bourne, Nick Kypreos, Derek Brandale, and let's welcome in Frank the Tank Baraska.
Welcome, Frankie.
Frankie!
Round of applause for the fellas. Okay. No.
Is he running naked right now upstairs?
Seems unlikely, but possible.
Is that not Frank the Tank from
Yeah.
Will
We're
Ferrell?
going streaking.
Yeah,
There you
we're
go.
going streaking. All right, boys. What do you think tonight? Back-to-back, they get the Dallas Stars, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Last night, 2-1 winners over the Buffalo Sabres, where they needed a very strong performance out of Jake Ottinger, who will not be in net tonight.
Yeah. Leafs get Scott Wedgwood for the second time, right? The last two games?
Yeah, they played him in I think it was like the 6th or 7th game of the season. They played the Stars in Dallas, and they had Wedgwood that night too. Can I do some Leafs fan
Takes off the top?
trust tree with you guys?
But it's your show, basically.
No, I want to ask your opinions on it because I know both you guys were up late watching
Edmonton.
Edmonton and Vegas.
I did, yeah.
And my dad and I used to have this conversation all the time that when the Leafs were bad through the 2010s, you'd watch the crappy Leafs play, and then you'd watch any other elite team in the league play, and you would say, that's a different sport. That's a different league they're playing in. And that went away during the regular season. That's gone away for the last 4 or 5 years where the Leafs have been a really elite regular season team. For the first time in a long time after watching that game last night, I'm like, that's a different class. That's a different league.
Wow.
I feel like it's back.
Wow.
Yeah. Like the Leafs are still good. They're not the 2010 Leafs. Don't get me wrong here. But just the attention to detail on both of those teams, the defensive work, hard on pucks, the lack of mistakes.
Yeah,
like it's
can't disagree 1 second. And I watched the same thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't see too many glaring mistakes off each side, Edmonton and Vegas. Like, the good discipline, no odd man rushes, no glaring errors, just hard forecheck, hard back check, back pressure. It had a huge playoff feel.
You know, I think there's something with when you're a really successful team and you're really confident in the process. Like obviously the Oilers would be through 16 straight wins. Vegas is defending Cup champions, where nothing happening is okay. You don't feel the need to force something. You're just content to be in the game and wait for your opportunities to come.
Okay.
And I feel like this is a Leafs team that when it's not coming, it starts to get desperate and force it in chances and stretch and whatever, force the puck into the middle where there's not that sort of like contented to just play. Just stay in it, stay in the game and wait for that door to open.
But like, I think the Leafs have been a really good regular season team for the last 4 or 5 years.
For sure. And they're still a really good team, right?
No, they're not. They're not.
They're mid.
They're just
right.
Yeah, they're not a good regular season team anymore, and the stats will tell you that.
But I'm
the
saying
numbers will
last
tell you
night
that.
the two teams we watched
Are elite.
are the best
Yes.
two teams in the West, maybe Colorado.
But in years past, you'd go into those games with the Leafs thinking you have a chance to compete, right? And the Leafs went to Edmonton, and they were in the midst of that winning streak, and they were in that game. They ended up losing. They blew it late. I just don't think the Leafs are walking into Vegas tomorrow night, and they're going to be able to play the game that they played. Like, it's just the defensive work. It's just there's no mistake. Anyways, their only mistake was a 2-on-0 off of a shorthanded goal, and they didn't give up any other mistakes. Anyways, we don't have to talk. It's not we can talk about more than the national hour.
No, it's a fair. I mean, I've been saying I had the Leafs. I think I said about a month ago between 6th and 11th best in the league, and it's tough to not sit here today feeling like they're closer to 11th than 6th.
I think the most glaring statistic or support to Sammy's case for what he saw last night compared to what we've seen from the Leafs is just 60 minutes of hockey, regulation wins. And it's incredible that Vancouver is sitting with 31 at this point, and they are ahead by a country mile.
How many of the Leafs at, Kip, did you just say?
Oh, you don't want to know, Sammy. I don't want to get the show off to a bad start.
Tell me, because I haven't kept track after it was like a big talking point for a long time.
They're at 16.
16.
Versus 31 for Vancouver.
For Vancouver. Yeah. And as bad as the Edmonton Oilers start was, they've found a way to get in 24. Wow. Vegas at 23 after last night's 3-1 victory.
Yep.
And I think there's all but 8 teams. If I'm not mistaken, the Leafs, I think, sit 24th in the league at 16 regulation wins in 48 games. 16, Justin.
It's not good.
Can we, but
that's a third of your games you're getting a regulation win. Just to further that point, the teams behind them, I don't think there's a playoff team in the bunch unless you think the Islanders get in, maybe Washington.
The Islanders, with their win the other night against the Leafs, are now at 15.
Yeah,
so
it's Minnesota, Montreal, Anaheim, Columbus, San Jose, Chicago.
That's bad company.
It is.
It's bad company. I guess it kind of just takes away from the devil's advocate I was going to play. But
which one?
That just, they did win the games, and they're in these close games. Like, it's not like they're getting, they could have a lot of regular.
That's been the defense. They haven't lost in regulation either.
That's what I mean. They could have a lot of regulation losses and be completely out of the playoff picture. I'm just, there is another side to that.
Yeah, no.
For sure.
I get it. It's not that they're getting blown out.
No,
they're not, you're not staring at a lottery pick.
Actually, only 4 teams have fewer regulation losses. Only Dallas, Winnipeg, Vancouver, and Boston have fewer regulation losses. So,
yeah.
That's about what we think they are, right? They're not bad. They're not great. They're in the mix. I was telling Sam before the show, they're the perfect team to talk about. Elite talent, expectations, underachieving. There's so much here for them, and we got to find what it is that they're missing.
I think we're heading into now where it's, we're getting close to trade deadline, and we're heading into this next sort of like portion of the season where it's like the start of the season, then it's pre-All-Star break, then post-All-Star break, you get into
we had the playoff push.
This part, and then it's like after the trade deadline, you have your team, you make your final push for the playoff or whatever. Now that we're in the sort of trade deadline portion of the season, it's like Brad, just be careful with that first. Just be careful with that first round pick.
They're in the first wild card spot right now with 58 points in 48 games. On their heels there is the Islanders and Penguins. This is actually super helpful if you're watching on television right there. You can see, they got games on Tampa and Florida and Boston, right? So you got a couple of cracks to get back up into that pile, but it's tight. Yeah. And I do think that the Flyers are going to drop out of there yet, but boy, I think the Penguins are going to climb.
Yeah, I think I see the Penguins. As much as we can sit here and say,
and I think the Islanders will be decent too.
Oldest team in the league and not much upside. There still should be enough for Pittsburgh to get in there.
I think so too. And I think with Patty Waugh and the Islanders and the push they're going to make, I don't think Lou's going to sell at the deadline. I think they'll get better too.
So what we're saying here is, for the first time in a while, the Leaf fans are living through a playoff push here. Like, you are not in the clear.
But it could go the other way. They win a few games. You could be going, can they be second, third in the division?
You're safe to say that today. And to Justin's point, you hope that they can, if they get a little streaky here, they can get themselves back into a little bit of a comfort zone.
We were having a talk about this before, and we were talking about first round of the playoffs and how it doesn't, this team lacking this or that. But I tell you what, a lot of things can happen. And one of them is you add a couple of pieces at the deadline. If you end up in a wild card spot and you draw the Rangers or Carolina or something, you're playing out of the Metro, it's a totally different season. Like, there's still, the point I think we're all making is that they need help, but there's a lot of opportunity out here.
Listen,
I think the big point is we have no effing clue what's going to happen.
But neither does Sheldon. Neither does Brendan. Neither does Brad. Like, this team, everyone's going, I don't know, we're okay.
Well,
hope. That's all you're giving me right now is just hope.
It's the hope that kills
Leaf fans have never tried the underdog thing in a regular season. And maybe
Not since they played Washington.
There might be that feeling now that they've got everything to gain and nothing to lose if they continue on this trajectory.
Got a lot to lose, pal.
Nothing to lose.
I'm talking about the Leaf fan and expectations. I'm not talking about jobs.
Okay.
I'm not talking about bodies moving.
But
I'm talking about the Leaf fan expectation.
Right. Kyper, this team misses the playoffs. Remember how you're talking about the team expanding? This team may just move to Markham if they miss the playoffs. They got a whole different thing.
Well, here's the really good news. And just a quick note, we're going to have Marty Turco, former NHL, great goaltender for the Dallas Stars. He's going to join us in about 25 minutes. But the Leafs kind of own Dallas the last little while here, 5-0, and have pretty much dominated them, Sammy.
Yeah.
In the last little while.
Goals 19-6 in the last 5 games against them. Humming along.
One of the last 5 games against them was with Matthews scored his Leaf record.
Oh, yeah.
55 was the record, right? I think he scored it in Dallas.
Yeah.
Maybe in overtime, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, yeah. So there you go.
So a little bit of some stats for you guys. The Stars are first in the NHL with a 15-5-4 road record. They're 4-0-2 on back-to-backs. This is a road game on a back-to-back. Don't expect you're getting a depleted Dallas Stars team.
Yeah, I picked them to win the Cup before the season started.
I've heard worse picks.
And I'm not feeling great about it right now.
You know what I do want to go back in time? Is remember when the Oilers were like 5-13? And everyone was tweeting about Sportsnet's analysts being a bunch of idiots. Do you guys remember that? Oh, yeah, half your...
They weren't talking to me, though.
Buddy, I was the one on the air every day being like, there's 10 people around here that picked them to win the Cup.
Yeah. Where are those 10 people? Stand up. Where are the 10 people who picked them? Stand up. Get in your mentions right now and send some messages from November.
They win 16 in a row. You don't mention that. They lose, and now you're mentioning that. You can have worse timing.
Yeah. Well, fair enough. But listen, they're still looking pretty good. Mark Spector has an article on Sportsnet today about how this is still the best they've looked, even in a loss.
Easily could have won that game last night. Aiden Hill made a couple really great saves. Anyways.
Okay, let's go to our first Sheldon Keefe, Kyper's Clipper, on maybe some of the issues still plaguing the Toronto Maple Leafs, including a little lack of scoring.
Show them the opportunities they're getting, the chances that are there. And you just got to stay with it. There's nothing else you can do. I do think we've had a number of chances. We've had no issues generating scoring chances. That's for it to go over the line is you just got to be persistent, stay with it, shoot the puck, be assertive, guys away from the puck, disrupt the goaltenders, all those kind of things. That's all you can do. And then at the same time, recognize that while you're going through that, you got to give up less if you want to win games. So that's the balance that you've got to strike there. But generating the scoring chances has not been a problem for us. So we just got to stay with it.
Jonas Siegel has an interesting article on The Athletic today about top 4 scoring by team and what percentage of their team scoring total. The Leafs are number 1, as you would expect. Their top 4 guys have 60% of their goals this season. Florida's second with 56. Good teams tend to be up there, right? Yeah. You have some elite talent, but the Leafs are far and away the most top heavy.
But we mentioned it yesterday about I don't see the other guys getting good chances. I see the top 4 guys getting good chances. But Nyes hasn't got a shot, and all that stuff you laid out there, and Bertuzzi's lack of shooting and Domi's lack of shooting. I don't necessarily agree with him that he's look at all these chances you're getting.
Yeah.
I watched the games too.
Majority of them are coming from that 60%.
Yes.
For sure they are. That's a really good point. I know Bertuzzi had the goal called back, and he's had a couple. Bertuzzi's the only guy I can be he's due for a couple.
Oh, my God. He's been we're talking about pucks unusual. on a goal line where he just needs to go.
I know that was the one he's swinging away.
Just blow harder, Bertuzzi. Blow harder. Push it over the line. I've never seen a guy so close and not be able to push it over the goal line.
He's beat it to a square a few times in front of the net this year. He really has.
Here's to hoping he has that Boston first round in him where, he's just around the crease and pucks find him because, boy, he's built up some luck. He's owed a little bit of karma here.
Yeah.
I think and we didn't touch on this really yesterday's show, but Tavares comes off of a nice break, 5-6 days, probably chasing his kids around. I don't think he ended up at the beach anywhere, but nice to get away from the game. Did you see enough out of Monday night to think that this guy can kind of come back a little bit here, or is there still going to be some concerns here moving forward on JT?
Well, it's a yes, but he's not going to get that break before playoffs. You know what I mean? Like, when he's rested, every game he comes back, he looks great. I thought he looked really good the other night, and he scores, and he's involved in the play. I think he had an assist as well, right? Like, he looked good. But it's going to happen again.
Is Sheldon, we've said many times, you probably know him a little better than us. Is he the type of guy that can look at the standings and see them in a wild card, and yet maybe 3 weeks from now or a month from now, he'll give him a night off? Or he'll be like, no, screw it. You make $11 million. I need you on a second line. I need you on a power play. I need you to produce.
Well, there's just never a night, Kip, where they're going to be like, these points don't matter. Or like, we'll just kind of throw our hat in the ring and see what happens tonight. Like, it's, Sheldon from watching him for years here. He tries to win every hockey game. At the cost of accountability for whatever for the year, he will try to win tonight.
Do you really believe that Tavares is away from the rink for the whole, I feel like
he wasn't playing a hockey game.
Over under days at the rink for him during the All-Star break, I'll set it at 3.5.
You think so? He's always like VJ Singh. You're like, get off the range,
He's probably taking ice baths, crushing kale smoothies. He's probably there the whole time.
Well, that's even nice at that living with him. Like, it's a
whatever
focus.
Works, right? At the end of the day for you, like, your body and your mind better than anybody, but like, is this just father time catching up to him a little bit? Because I think there are times when we can still watch him and the foot speed's not there. My biggest concern still, even after his goal and an assist Monday night, is 5-on-5, guys.
Yeah.
You didn't have a point 5-on-5 on Monday night. It was a 4-on-4, which maybe gives him a little bit more room. And then the power play goal. I can't tell you the last time he scored an even strength or 5-on-5 goal. I think it was early December. I don't know if you have anywhere you can.
Yeah, I know. It's 20, 30 games. It's a long time.
No, it's really concerning.
Yeah.
And can he play and be successful 5-on-5? Because that's how you win rounds in the playoffs.
I'm a big fan of the expression, everything's a nail to a hammer. And I feel like for Tavares, you said he knows his body, he knows whatever. And it's like, but a guy like him who just works hard and commits to his craft, he doesn't know how to relax, right? Like, it just looks like maybe if I just work harder. And sometimes that's not the answer for a guy like him. So they may have to sit him down for a couple nights and say, I know you want to be out there and doing your thing, but because they obviously, given the top 4 scoring we talked about, you require that. They've had no injuries out of their top 4 guys and still are struggling.
Would it be December 11th versus the Islanders? Is that possible?
Very, very possible.
Yeah.
When he scored his 1,000th point?
That's closing in on 2 months.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago, boys.
Yeah, it's a long time.
No, I lied to you. Columbus, the 23rd.
23rd?
Yeah, of December.
Of what?
Yeah. The 23rd of December.
Of what are you marking? Even strength or 5-on-5?
Oh, just even strength.
Well, see, to me,
or 5. Yeah,
5-on-5 is different than 4-on-4.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, no, it's
a long stretch.
I still feel like
he did have some good looks 5-on-5 Monday night. He did. He had one on in the slot.
Yeah.
And Sorokin made a great leg save on him.
His expected goals are always through the roof. He gets a lot of looks and they're not going in. I'm not as worried about him as I think maybe you are. I think he's still going to be able to produce for them. It's definitely a concern that his numbers are declining like they are, but I still feel like he's got enough juice. He gets some pucks around the crease. He can score some goals for him. But obviously they need him to. So
yeah, but you absolutely can't sit him. You can't be like, we got to dial you back.
No,
they need everything.
Well,
they can't get a goal
once they get Kalle Arncroft back.
Well, I guess isn't he their best non four guy scorer? But
got 10 goals.
They need to bleed everything they can out of Tavares.
Flex Seal,
regardless of
new Flex Seal.
Yeah, Regardless of how much of a stone it might be, you have to.
I believe they play Arizona 3 times in the next month. So we're going to see a lot of Flex Seal.
No way they play them 3 times.
Maybe in the month of March. They play 3 times in like a couple weeks.
Huh.
Yeah.
Stop leaks fast.
So are we still too early to call this now a stretch drive, Sammy? Or is this what you kind of have us looking at? I know Sheldon Keefe's going to talk a little bit about moving forward, but do you consider this a stretch drive right now?
For sure. It's after the All-Star break.
30 games?
30
like
games.
a sprint?
But I agree with Sam that it's like compartment or like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's just it's a chunk of games up to the All-Star game. Like this is not the playoff push. This is a what do we need assessment period. You try to stack up points, but you're also going, God, can we live with this guy? Can Liljegren handle it? Can we get more out of Domi? Can we? Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Sheldon Keefe and his thoughts on this stretch drive.
What he's looking for in the stretch drive there?
Consistency. That's been the name of the game for us. Like we've, whether it's you look at the season as a whole, we've been all inconsistent with our play, and then even within games. We, like I said the other night, we play well enough to win, and playing well enough to win to me is doing a lot of good things. Otherwise, you're not even in the game. You're chasing the game, and you're letting the opposition pull away from you. Look, we've been good in games, and then we let it get away on us. Like it's just consistent, doing consistently. That's the difference between the top teams, the elite teams, and everybody else in the league is consistency. So that's really what we're seeking.
So that to me is the biggest problem with this team.
The bonehead moments.
There's just the lack of consistency. And with the other teams in years past, with what they did in the bottom 6, with more defensive, and they're just more consistent down there, you knew what you're going to get on a night-to-night basis. If it wasn't as much scoring, at least they weren't getting caved in, making dumb
felt
mistakes.
Better with like Kasha and Lafferty and Achari. And,
I guess, yeah, I did.
Some of those guys.
Zach Aston Reese.
I got to tell you, he talked about consistency. Like we've played well enough to win. We've just kind of had these moments, sort of thing. It kind of reminds me of the Galchenyuk turnover in the playoffs or the tournament. Where it's like I said this yesterday, where they just have these moments, and cleaning that up is something I don't know if you can coach. I don't think you can coach it out of guys. I don't.
No,
which is a major concern.
I don't know what the answer
You
is.
tell
here.
Liljegren to bank it off the glass every time. It's not fun.
I get the honeymoon of a Patrick Waugh, but those guys are right now, the Islander team that I saw beat the Leafs are kind of on their best behavior.
Yeah.
And how long he continues to kind of squeeze out their best behavior, 2 weeks, a month,
You think they're
the
going to
rest of the season. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But all I know is there's some coaches that find a way to never let you relax. And I don't know if it's Sheldon. Would a hard ass make you more aware of making simpler plays, safer plays? Would you be a lot more scared if you had a different coach out there to make a mistake or relax? Like I've had different type of coaches. I can tell you, Keenan scared the snot out of me. I knew if I had one bad moment, I'm either benched or in the press box. I'm a healthy scratch the next day. Play the percentages. Do not gamble. Do not. Like, is this Sheldon needing to find a way to squeeze more safety or urgency or more attention to detail out of these guys? Or is it just on the individual?
You can't. You can't.
No, I think you can.
No, he can't. He's tried to be captain accountability this year. So first off, I think it's too late to change coaches. Do you agree with that, or do you think?
Listen, I don't think there's.
We're after the All-Star game. There's 2 months of the season.
I don't know. Did Lou Lamoriello fire somebody a week before and win the Stanley Cup?
And went on the bench, didn't he? Didn't he fire somebody?
Larry
Robinson on the bench.
Came in.
Yeah, but no, there's
he's
one
put himself on him twice.
He's done it twice. Yeah.
I don't believe for one second that it's ever too late if you get the response that you hope for.
Okay. Well, it's getting late.
Yeah.
It's getting late. If it happened now, it would be a late coach firing.
It would be
for a team that's in the playoffs.
It would
that
be
very uncommon.
But listen, LA did it.
Yeah.
Todd McClellan's gone. Might I add that we were talking about Todd McClellan 8-10 weeks ago as the coach of the year. This guy couldn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
He gets them off to the greatest start in road trip history. And now he's out of a job.
Yeah. So my point there is just that Keefe can't. So my point was going to be assuming they're keeping him because it would be so uncommon.
I'm with you.
Right?
I don't expect them to make a change.
Right.
I don't.
Assuming they keep him, we've already seen the attempts at being the accountability coach with, they scratched Kampf was at the one game, and they, we a few examples of him trying to be the
Bench
accountability
the guys for the power plays.
Yeah. But it's just you can't. People know who you are. Players know who you are. It's authentic or it's not authentic. But he's
going to have to find a way to get these guys more consistent, though, down this stretch.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you do next if the accountability doesn't seem to be seeping in?
But aren't we also just talking about the four guys who have 60% of their goals right now? Like, to me, hearing you're not talking about getting more accountability out of Domi.
Oh, listen.
Or getting more accountability out of
He has
Kampf.
to find a way to squeeze more out of those guys, too.
Yeah.
But
so it's across the board for you?
I get that for sure.
Okay.
I think his inconsistencies and up and down has probably saved him this season in a weird way. Like, because you have that one long where the Kings were red hot.
Mm-hmm.
They were unbelievable. And you're like, you got up to that standard.
Expectations.
And everyone's like, wow, this team's elite. And then they go on a long losing streak and then they can't win anymore. And it's like, well, you're gone.
Yeah.
With Keefe, it's like, well, we're kind of good. Oh, we're bad. We're kind of good. We're bad. It's like
right.
there's
and
been
point
no
where you're like, this is a great
That's
team.
exactly it. So I don't know. I don't think they're going to change the coach.
I mean,
expectations are
the
somewhere
one thing
there.
even for John Tavares is like he did get benched, right? Although the points haven't been flying by, he has. You can see that his attention to detail has gotten a little better. I don't think he's throwing as many pucks away.
No, he's becoming not like Jason Spezza did with the Leafs, but you can see a more veteran type of style of play out of him for sure. But
people expect more at $11 million bucks.
That's right. Yeah,
right?
we're not looking for a good puck management for 11.
They've got an issue with Liljegren right now, and how does Sheldon get him to the place where they think he should be, and that's a legit top 4 guy making good, sound decisions.
Is there any chance they would trade players who are good players in hopes of just becoming a different looking team? As in, Liljegren, but you're still getting a current player back, or even bigger names from getting a current player back.
See, that
a trade for hockey's sake.
The tendency now is, because over the years we've built up this trade deadline, is the focus is on UFAs.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Go find RFAs.
Yeah.
Go do a real hockey trade that changes the makeup of this team without borrowing a rental.
Right.
Go there's no Cliff Fletcher trades for Doug Gilmour, and how many guys were involved in that one?
7 guys, 11 guys.
Ridiculous.
A lot of humans.
But that's almost what the Leafs need right now.
Yeah.
They need a 3 or 4 out and 3 or 4 in.
And you know why? Because you know what you have out of the top, and it's a special group of guys. And so if this isn't working below it, I'm with you. Can we just there's some games where you just
and it has to
turn
be
your cards in
it has
and
to
get
be
new ones?
names that we were not talking about. It's not Hanifin and Chikrin and
No, it's Brandon
right?
Hagel.
It's exactly Hagel.
It's
something
someone who's
24,
out
25.
there. Yeah.
And if it does cost you a first rounder, whatever's coming back is going to stick around for the next 3 or 4 years.
How many times can we do this? And
That they need to be different.
Why don't we change out the bottom 6 again? It's like this is the
trade Marner for Roman Yossi and
This is
Jussi
the
Saros. I
7th
don't know.
different version of the bottom 6.
Hey, that's what happens when you haven't won in 56 years.
Team A, Team B. It's like it's just a new Team B coming on in.
Yeah.
Bring on Team B again.
But what
Not
choice?
allowed to address Team A.
Unless you
Don't
think,
look at him in the eye.
No, he'll turn into stone.
unless you think that the hope is that these guys will turn it around. Sammy.
Maybe this time.
Surely this time will be different. We should go.
All right. Don't call me Shirley. All right. When we return, we're going to bring in Marty Turco. Turco, former NHLer, almost 300 wins in his career, 275. And now special assistant to the president of the Dallas Stars. Up next, on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We're back. Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. Okay, let's bring him in. One of the best goaltenders in Dallas Stars history, Marty Turco, 275 wins, 3-time NHL All-Star, and the king of the charcuterie board, Marty Turco. You want to talk meat? You want to talk cheeses? Hang with this guy. What's going on, Turk? What do you got
hilarious.
for me? A little salami?
Oh, Kyper. Maybe a little prosciutto, some supersata. You know, I've been on the spec lately. A little bit, a little harder, a little saltier. Nice.
I love that. Where were we when you brought this thing out? I'm like, I love you.
Wow, Jesus. Where were we? Were we in Blue Mountain?
I don't
That was
know.
a long time.
I don't know, but you have like one in your trunk just for like in case of emergency.
Hey, I travel well. You know the deal.
I know you do, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
We're good. So I don't know. Tell us a little bit about the Dallas Stars. I did pick them to win the Stanley Cup when they asked me back in September. I don't mind my pick, but I think I need more right now. What are your overall thoughts on the season?
All right. Here's your condensed confidence booster for yourself. Risque pick at the start of the year in this Central Division, Western Conference, 32 team league. We gotta go through at the minimum. Vegas, Colorado. Who knew about Winnipeg? Who knew about Vancouver? Love seeing the Canadian teams rocking and rolling, but and a few more obstacles probably along the way. Never mind the finals if we ever get there. Okay, saying that. Do we have to go 12 hours ago or
well,
18 hours ago?
Odger was 12 hours ago.
Yeah, 12 hours ago, right? So our goalie hasn't had the year, collectively that he wants, but he's got pedigree. And listening to Razor last night, their art form has been there, but sometimes not, but the pedigree's there. And he's a true number one. He's still a young guy. He's already had playoff experience. So, that's kind of the linchpin, which we believe in. Forwards have never been deeper, to be honest. And, we thought that maybe going in, question mark being Duchesne, turns out he might be our MVP. To be honest, every place he's on, power play, line he's kicking on, you name it, it just rolls. His energy is just contagious. He gives me the energy too. So he's playing fantastic. All lines. Even look down at the bottom. Our guys from Delandria to Steele and Smith and Foxa. These guys, you kind of get forgot about around here, but they're just a formidable fourth line. And we have three other good lines that are just rolling. So the emergence of Thomas Hartley, I think this is kind of the one quiet piece that is really going to make the biggest difference for us in the back end. If we stay status quo through the trade deadline, I think he'll be the biggest reason we have any success in the playoffs. You just need, your back end to put up numbers, but put up quality minutes, as you know. And so we just like it. I like the way our team, the belief is, and you had a guy like Wedgie carry the load for a while when Jake was hurt and maybe not playing his best. But, if things get going, all things are equal, we got good a chance as anybody popping in goals as we tighten up things down the road for defensively, get our goalie rocking and rolling. You might look like a smart guy once all said and done.
All right.
Well, that's a fun thing when a team comes to town is giving the fans some players to watch. And the Thomas Hartley thing is fascinating to me. I think in goals among defensemen, he's in the mix there with Makar and Dahlin, Hughes and Weegar, 12 goals. Were you guys surprised that he's been this effective this year? Well, what kind of D-man is this guy? All offensive? I haven't watched him all that closely.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. At one point, he was tied for the league in goals for defensemen. Doesn't need a lot of power play minutes. Does eat some ice time just because, it's probably our least depth position, but it's still great. It's still good. So he's a great skating defenseman, big body. Our expectations, probably internally, and at least for myself, I was like, yeah, this kid has it. From the time he went down the minors, matured, understood, and worked on his overall game. and to come up here. And we knew offensively, it's kind of the thing with young defensemen, right? Offense usually isn't the issue. You just got to learn the nuances of the league, how to play it, how to play positionally, work on your strength as a young guy. And he fits that mold. He's got tremendous upside and has opportunity to play in this league a long time. So a real smooth skating guy, puck moving dude I think he plays a little bit of a chip on his shoulder in terms of just competitiveness. And, that's what you need for guys who are going to be all-stars in this league. And that's the trajectory that he's on. And it's really bode well for us. And part of the reason why we put up our offensive numbers, because you get that offense a lot of times from your back end, from the guys moving the puck. So he's been a really, bright spot for us this year. And like I said, come playoff time, it's somebody like that that's just going to push you over the edge when you win a 6-7 game series or not.
We're talking a 3-time NHL All-Star and now special assistant to the president of the Dallas Stars, Marty Turco. So you mentioned the position of defense being the least in depth. Harley, Miro Heiskanen, and Lindell to me stand out, but does it drop off a little bit here? I know Ryan Suter's still there, probably playing a similar role to Mark Giordano here for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but a guy that you really got to watch the minutes and the wear and tear, Marty.
Yeah, wear and tear. He's the consummate pro. Him and Joe Pavelski. These guys have played. More games than you and I probably just playing shinny hockey. These guys have just been stalwarts out there. But there's a drop off just because Miro's all world. Essa's he plays Team Finland Olympics to play in the 4-team deal next year. He's just that kind of player. Eats minutes, definitely on the defensive side, block shots, penalty killer, just a sublime competitor. And then Harley, but other guys are great. They're good NHLers. It's just it only is a drop because the other guys are just that good, and this league is that tough on a nightly basis. And when you play against teams like ours that throw out 3 just wildly offensive lines, that you're going to need your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th defenseman to play effective minutes. And so we've had that this year. Our game has been overall a little bit loose. Our goals against has reflected that, but we expect that to tighten up here. We're more than capable. These guys are all NHL defensemen, but it's the only reason why, just because our top end 3 guys are just that good. And then you expect a little bit more of the other guys.
So as special assistant to the president, will you recommend a trade for a blue liner? There's a lot of teams looking to add depth on that blue line. Can we assume that Dallas would be in the mix on needing a Chris Tanev type of player, maybe?
My recommendation is usually go to what bar we're going to next. And if you're hungry, I got the charcuterie board, pickles. Nice. Don't forget the pickles and the olives and the stuff you need to complete the deal. I just know where where it ends for me. But Jim Neal and company. I've been around the block a few times, and our owner Tom Ghilardi, man, he wants to win like no other. And so I think that assumption is probably pretty good.
Okay.
And it'd be, they always are, even though we probably, don't make as many moves as maybe our fan base would like sometimes. We make a lot of great moves that have panned out in recent years. Had a great run last year in the playoffs. So our crew knows what they're doing. And everybody's always looking. That just kind of goes without saying, but I'm sure we see what the market's out there like, but there's so many teams in the mix, and there's only so many defensemen that are available, and salary cap and all that stuff. Such a major issue in doing deals. It's probably hard to do, but our team is, our hockey ops is fantastic, and we've had a really good run of going to the Cup Finals a few years ago, Western Conference Finals last year, and always being in the playoff mix. And so whatever they do, I'm sure it'll be a good move. And 32 teams getting after it's a hard one to win. But like I said, like our chances just as much as anybody, even though we haven't won 16 in a row like that team out west.
But you guys are a really curious mix of talents. Just looking at that group of forwards. The one thing I'd like to hear more about is the surprise that has been Matt Duchene. You mentioned that he has come from like, what are we going to get out of this guy to nearly MVP status. I guess how surprising and a positive a development has that been?
Well, it's just surprising because he got bought out, right? And, we got him for, really favorable price tag for our salary cap. So when you just look at it in a linear perspective, yeah, it is surprising. If you take his body of work as a whole, and I mean, his eagerness, his drive this year, his competitiveness, his everyday ability to bring it and bring the fire, that's not, I mean, now getting to see him from day one till, just the last night, he's his skills there. I mean, they always knew that he was a high pick. He was great as a young player. He's still good. And it just goes to show you how finicky this league is when you have expectations based on your contract. But, pound for pound, dollar for dollar, this guy has been, that MVP you mentioned. And it's been a breath of fresh air to see him come in here with a little, he's got a chip on his shoulder, to say the least, a lot to prove, and, 1-year deal. And, but man, he is good. He has that drive, but he also has the skill set. And he has that other thing, that moxie that just drags other people along. So, with Jamie Benn and Pavelski and others, got a good foothold on our locker room. What a welcome addition, that fire that he brought this year. So Dutchy's been a really wonderful addition. He's really complimented this group a lot.
Marty, we know Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin are still there and key parts of that experience, but the team really belongs to the guys like Hintz and Robertson and even Wyatt Johnston now.
Yeah, you're right. Our future is so bright, Kyper, that it's easy to look past this team this year, this leadership, but we kind of have this great mix of experience with those two and Joe and even Suter on the back end to our young core that is locked up for the most part under contract. And right now, those three that you mentioned, that's our first line. Pavelski went down to play another line to get them going, and Wyatt Johnston, a second year, 20 years old, playing the NHL. He's just man, he's good, and he's just a hockey player, right? He'd be a first overall pick if you're to go out in the streets and play some shinny or get on the pond to play. We have an amazing first line forward, and Rupe Hans is big. He does it all. He's up for Selke nominations or conversations all the time. And then Robertson, who's just secretly goes about his business. You watch him, doesn't get much fanfare. He's not a dynamic looking. Look at him and say, yeah, I mean, he's one of the best players in the world, but puts up a lot of points and he makes everybody better around him. And he's just a really good player. And so those guys with Miro, Essa's his 20s, and we also have a couple of guys in the minor leagues. I mean, they're running away with the AHL scoring title, this year, and it kind of cooled off a little bit. But, our future does look super bright. Our goalie's real young. And so there's a lot to be thankful for in the Stars organization. But, that being said, we're kind of coming down the stretch here of a tight divisional race that should just make us stronger. So, we stay healthy and we kind of tighten things up a little bit defensively. We should be in a really good position, come playoff time. But until then, big one in Toronto. Our boys always look forward to that. A lot of guys on our team from Ontario. So it's a great matchup. And after a big performance last night from our goalie, we hope our forwards and defensemen take better care of business tonight.
Well, we're looking forward to it, man. Hey, thanks for doing this. I haven't seen you in a while. I haven't talked to you in a while, but you look great. I don't know if it's a filtered lens or not, but it's working for you, Marty. Hey, don't be such a stranger and start bringing some wine and cheese around here.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have to just surprise you one day. So I'll get with your producer and surprise you. I can't see you right now. It's probably the best, but I'll see what you look like.
I love that. Marty Turco, everybody. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, Marty.
Thanks, guys.
That guy is a riot.
Did you play with him?
No, I did not.
Yeah.
But, every once in a while you find yourself at a charity event, like, years past, and, you're like, I don't really know that guy. And then by 3 a.m., you're like, I love you, man.
There's a great meme of two guys trading shirts after the club at like 2 a.m. I could see you doing it with Turco.
And then I'm not kidding. 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Charcuterie board comes out. I'm like,
Where did
I don't
that
know. Is
come
there a deli open downstairs? Like, where did this come from?
Great
our
goalie,
list
too.
of
Fantastic goalie.
our list of goalies on this show as great guests is extensive. We have a long list of wonderful goaltender guests.
And for the most part, like, they don't shut up. They love to talk.
True. They do. Maybe it's because, like, in the crease, they've had to hold that all in. They're not talking on the bench to the guys, and over the years, it just builds up.
That could be it.
Yeah.
What are you expecting tonight out of Dallas? Because this is a
weird
sneaky
team to
team.
me.
It's a
They are.
sneaky team.
You know, top line of Jason Robertson, Rupe Hintz, and Wyatt Johnston, who you're like, huh? But all those guys are point per game players.
Well, Robertson's not going to hit the mark that he had last year, if I'm not mistaken. What, 45 goals, 46 goals?
Yeah.
He's only has 17, but he's still going to be sneaky
80, 90 points.
80, 90 points.
And then Marchment, former Toronto Maple Leaf, he's on pace for 30 goals. Duchesne's on fire. Sagan's, putting the puck in the net pretty decent. Jamie Benn, Sam Steele, Joe Pavelski is their third line. As we do our Leafs hour, I'll just note that's a bit of a different feel to what,
And Pavelski is
the Leafs are rolling out.
And Pavelski's turning 40. So he's up there.
Yeah, I
in
know. I
that,
played
that
the guy in college.
Ryan,
He's still doing this.
He's in that Ryan Suter, Mark Giordano.
Yeah.
But like the role he plays now on this team is still like super important.
1 goal away from his 14th 20-goal season.
He's also not a schlub. Doesn't he have 30 or 40 points? Like he's
But
got a lot of.
he still takes key face-offs.
Yeah.
He's still like blocking shots. He's still producing. Like this guy's got life.
Yeah.
I don't love the matchup for the Leafs tonight.
He's got 19 goals and 24 assists for 43 points in 50 games this year.
Just without, you talk about that third line.
Yeah.
Matching up against whatever the Leafs are going to be putting out their third line.
Robertson.
Gregor.
But
It's
like Ryan Suter, they need another defenseman. He needs to be like the 7th guy. I'm not sure I want Ryan Suter out there, to start the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I'd like to note that Suter and Pavelski were teammates at Wisconsin back when I was in college. I did a workout today, and I can barely open my eyes. I don't know if you can tell. And these guys are playing in the National Hockey League. It's really annoying.
they're quite good.
Yeah.
So I think it should be a stiff test for the boys in blue this evening. How's that sound?
Well,
Yeah, I think that's.
And a lot of guys from Ontario on this team. Like Sagan,
You know you're getting a great effort.
Wyatt Johnson. I'm pretty sure he's a local guy. It just feels like this. There's a bunch of guys that like to score against Leafs.
Mason Marchment's having a better year.
Yeah.
We do know, he lost his dad, very emotional last year, and he's now kind of looking like the guy that they signed for sure.
He's long and gangly, and he'll fight you.
Should have been a Leaf.
Should have been a Leaf.
I don't know. I thought Malgin was like the MVP of the Swiss League, so I thought that was a pretty good trade.
I honestly, though, I will say, of my time with Sheldon and Kyle, the most baffling thing is giving up on this guy when they did.
The amount of time they put in.
They really put in time to develop this player. You know what it was? Why they did it? They didn't think he could stay healthy. They didn't believe in his health.
Based on what?
He had some injuries.
Shoulders, what?
Yeah,
Knee?
I don't remember how
Wow.
extensive, but they just didn't think he'd be in lineups enough.
The other one I was thinking about last night is he's firing a puck. Carter Verhaeghe.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Oh my God, this guy could shoot the puck
yeah,
too.
He wasn't quite like
No,
a
but
Leaf
still
Leaf.
a guy in the system.
Another team gave up on him before he went
I
to the
know.
Panthers.
I'm just telling you another
Yeah.
guy that I saw. Fire one in the net.
Amadio looked pretty good on the Knights last night too. He was flying around. Anyways, I'm not saying I miss him that bad. He'd be better on Leafs
Scored nice
fourth
goal
line.
in the playoffs for him last.
Anyways,
All right, see what you started.
Sorry to derail the Leaf hour.
All right, give me a score tonight.
Leafs just surprise us again and just handle business.
I think the
4-1
Leafs
Dallas
goes
Stars.
Take the flip.
6-0-0. I'll take the Leafs on this one.
Good for us.
Just don't like the backup goalie tonight. I think the Leafs can take advantage.
There you go.
Okay, plenty more still on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We go national next. Welcome into the Real Kyper and Bourne Show, the national edition, live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. And at Kypreos, Sammy McKee, Justin Bourne,
Hola.
Derek Brandale, and Frank the Tank, Alaska.
Not quite.
What'd I say?
Alaska. It's Baraska.
Baraska.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
No, you said Alaska. But I think you know that.
Well, you told me Alaska before the show started.
We're working on the pronunciation guide.
Yes.
I
correct.
got it right before. I'm just messing with you, and I'm messing with Frank the Tank.
I see.
He's in the building.
We're all good here.
Yeah.
All right, boys. All good things, and Frank's cool with Alaska.
We did just get word.
All good things must come to an end. The Oilers streak over at 16, and we're going to get into that and so much more in this hour. Real Kyper and Bourne, brought to you by Bet365. We're also going to welcome in a few minutes Brian Boyle, former NHLer, played on a few teams. We'll talk trade deadline. I think he's been traded a few times as well. But let's go to you first, JB, on the incredible run by the Edmonton Oilers coming to a screeching halt last night.
You know, the best thing about the end of that streak, shouldn't say the best thing, but just you didn't leave that thinking like, they deserve to lose. Finally, they got their just desserts. Like, they played great last night. They were just as deserving of winning that game as several they won over their streak. Doesn't change how I feel about them in any way. That's a good hockey team, man. And Sammy, in our top of the last hour, heaping praise on the Oilers and Vegas Golden Knights.
It was a great game. I would say that we have fully ventured into Vegas owns the Oilers territory, where it's like, I think the Oilers are probably a better team. They were definitely a better team last night. Vegas beats them without Shea Theodore, without Jack Eichel. But it's just, listen, as a Leaf fan, I recognize when a team is being owned by another team.
In the kitchen.
And it's trending in that direction.
Yeah.
And it's like you're gonna have to probably go through that team, I would imagine, if you're the Edmonton Oilers, to make it to where you want to get to. And to me, that's a very scary proposition.
I saw Oilers fans last night tweeting like, "Oh, shocker, another Vegas player being a baby," and I was like, "Oh, this is a thing."
Oh
now.
yeah, they hate
we got a proper rivalry
they're upset
going.
because Pietrangelo hacked somebody after the whistle, and it's like, oh, well, that's what you did to. Like, they definitely don't like each other, but I think they just have it. The Golden Knights just have it. It's hard to explain, but they have it.
Yep.
Well, first of all, we did kind of tee it up after yesterday's show about how this one kind of feels like a playoff series already, and I'm telling you, it did not disappoint. Like, when you see the attention to detail that both clubs had, where, outside of the first goal by Connor McDavid, there was no kind of glaring error in particular. I mean, over the course of 60 minutes, you're going to have one or two great opportunities, and Draisaitl and Connor found them on one of them on the turnover. But outside of that, man, this one had every feel of a Stanley Cup playoff game.
And what it was, and another thing that we had discussed, was like that patience where neither team seemed desperate to try, make the home run play and maybe give something up the other way. They played within their systems, and it was a tight hockey game. And boy, lots of talent on the rink at the same time. They
also mentioned on the broadcast multiple times last night that Vegas led in all 6 games in the playoff series last year.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How about
and guess what happened last night? Oh, sorry, the Edmonton led all 6 games.
All 6.
And guess what happened last night?
Yeah. How about Aiden Hill, though? Like, Aiden Hill at this point is, we've done the Team Canada goaltending things. Looked really good and has won a cup now. And
like, he won a Stanley Cup, and it put him on the map.
Yeah.
But if there's going to be like 2 things that you remember about Aiden Hill now moving forward, it's he won the Stanley Cup and he shut down the Edmonton Oilers winning streak. That's that's the 2 things that come to the top of my mind right now when I hear that name.
Yeah, and I mean,
that's how big of a game it was for him.
So if you're an Oilers fan, you just hate Aiden Hill at this point. He earned a 2-year contract off of that cup, $4.9 million per season, and it looks like they're going to get great value for that money. He's the real deal.
I despise that dude.
And you saw
some 938 this year in 18 starts.
Saw some frustration out of Connor at the end of that game, slamming his stick pretty good, fired up coming off the ice.
Wild levels of competitiveness, by the way. After winning 16 straight.
Yeah. Love it.
It's a moment of a lifetime that slipped out of your hands. Like, that's how close he was. And he knows that in all probability, he'll never be in a situation to take another crack at 17.
It's funny, what records matter and which ones don't, but you can tell by the defensiveness of the people who currently hold them. Was it
Tocchet was saying he didn't want
it. My dad's texting me about how the Islanders didn't want it. Butch is tweeting about it, worrying about how, they did in regulation. That record meant something to people.
It's funny.
Okay, let's go to Brian Boyle, former NHLer who does a terrific job now on the NHL Network as an analyst. Brian, I mean, it's hard not to talk about that game last night and the feel that we got as a potential series down the road, I guess. Oilers, Vegas, round 2 coming up in the spring. I think everybody would welcome it.
Well, thank God it is where it is now after the start Edmonton had with, everybody talking how they were in the preseason and leading up to it. This is, McDavid is such an electric player, and Draisaitl is too in his own regard, but they got to be in the mix. And that streak was fun. It was awesome. You knew there was going to be a lot riding on it. No playoff series is going to have a long layoff like that. So a lot of different things you can take out of the game. I'm excited about what it could be, come postseason.
Yeah, we are too. One thing we were talking about before you came on was how Vegas just seems to have the Oilers' number right now. Have you played, in one of those situations where it just feels like the other team, for whatever reason, you just can't get a piece of them? It just seems like Oilers fans right now are going crazy over this Vegas team who probably isn't better than them, but seems to always end up getting the upper hand.
Yeah, different sports have that, right? There's matchups that just don't necessarily work out for whatever team, for whatever reason. And Vegas, I think, probably right now has had the most success and does the best job at limiting a lot of what Edmonton does really well, a lot of what Edmonton has used predominantly to win games. Now, this streak, you've seen different guys from Edmonton step up and their roles have expanded a little bit. There's more ownership around the group, which I think that they need. So this is one game, and obviously there's a number of reasons why you want to win that game if you're Edmonton, and you can look at it like that was almost a playoff game if you're Edmonton because you have more to lose, so to speak, because of the streak. And then Vegas goes in and takes care of it however you want to describe the game, and Vegas comes away with 2 points. That's how Vegas won a cup, really. I mean, there were games where they weren't necessarily dominant. They find ways to win. And there's a number of different things that they have going well for them. But I like the fact that Edmonton goes through a big game in the middle of a season to kind of reassess, all right, where are we at? How do we avoid this come playoff time where it's even, it's obviously ratcheted up higher in terms of what the stakes are. And you can use a game like that as a dress rehearsal. Now, they're all dress rehearsals, but that one means a little bit more.
We're talking to former NHLer and NHL Network analyst Brian Boyle. So, Brian, we were talking earlier in the show about making a coaching change. And, of course, we know what it's meant to the Edmonton Oilers with Knobloch now and what it could mean for the LA Kings. We were even having a discussion earlier whether or not a different voice behind a Toronto Maple Leaf bench, would that squeeze more out of the players, out of the places that you've played over your career? I mean, have you ever, has it ever stood out for you where there's been a coaching change and for whatever reason it got more out of players than before? And do you believe in it? Like, can you believe that one change could change the makeup of 20 guys, as I guess Edmonton has proven?
So I've never gone through it mid-season, and I have gone through it, in a different season. We had 4 years with the Rangers and Torts, and then we brought in AV from Vancouver, and even that training camp, you're on high alert. The whole summer leading up to it, you're on high alert. Those guys are going to walk into, when a coaching change happens in Edmonton or whatever, you walk in the room the next day on your best behavior, so to speak, right? It's like the opposite of the substitute teacher when we're growing up. We get to kind of let it rip and have some fun because she's not going to be here the next day or he's not going to be here. This is a lot different. You got a new boss. You know what it is? I've never been in the room when a staff has to talk about maybe doing something like that. It's a big move. But when you read after the fact, it's like the message wasn't being sent correctly or wasn't being received. That's what you keep hearing. Now, I'll give Sheldon Keefe a lot of credit. He's had a lot of patience with the group in different moments during his tenure. He has no patience anymore. And I don't love how it's kind of played out in the media, but I think the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking this is his one of his last cards to play to try and get their attention, to have the message received. They're not playing the way he wants them to. I'm sure they're not getting the results that they want. So maybe he's trying sort of a different message on his own, obviously doing whatever he can in a really highly scrutinized environment.
Hey, so you played with the Toronto Maple Leafs and a lot of their core guys when they were pretty early in their careers here. I guess watching how their careers have progressed and the success they've had individually and sort of a lack of team success, has anything surprised you about the trajectory of where they've been and how things have played out over 7 or so seasons so far?
No, not really. I mean, Austin could still get 70 goals. I think Mitch Marner's such a smart, crafty player. I think Willie is very dynamic and has gotten better and better. I kind of love his personality outside the rink. I mean, I love those guys. Those were the guys I paid a lot of attention to, and Morgan Riley as well. I was always impressed with his leadership at 23 years old. I remember saying, I found out maybe a week in he was that young when I played with him, and I thought he was pushing 30, just how he had the respect of the room. And you know, it's hard. You stay in the same place, you try to find different answers, and they've had a lot of success in the regular season, and sometimes a little bit of adversity during the season can be really good if you find your way out of it. So the way those guys have progressed in terms of their ability and dominance has been no surprise to me. I was excited to get to see it at such a young age. I was impressed then, and I'm impressed now. There's a lot to deal with in that city. Forget the media stuff, just being around, going for dinner or whatever it is, and they've been through different management, GM, and they've been through different coaches, and I guess now maybe they look at each other and they got through a round last year. That is progress, regardless of what people think. That's progress. Hopefully they can keep that mix and figure out, if they add something or whatever they do, they can find a way to reach that next level. They use this adversity to, take another step, because them going on a run would be exciting for the whole league, I think, except for the teams that they knock out.
Brian, Elias Lindholm, 2 power play goals in a building that he scored a few goals earlier in his career in Carolina. They beat a pretty good hockey club. Is this going to be one of those moves where we look back at Vancouver and say, yeah, but when they made that trade, this is why they're here today? Is that a potential storyline for this club?
Yeah, I mean, the rich get richer, and there's a lot of critics, and maybe myself included a little bit, thinking you can't really sustain it. I thought they'd be a playoff team after their start for sure, but I mean, you go there, and I saw someone wrote this on X or whatever it was, and saying that when you go to Vancouver, your shooting percentage is just 20%, no matter what. Lindholm goes there and bang, bang, 2 shots. I mean, I think he tipped the first one. The second one might have just hit his stick, right? And it's just, they got something going on right now. It's really impressive. Their goaltending's been much better this year. They've had bounce back years from a couple guys like Besser, and they found a mix. I love Teddy Bluger when I played with him in Pittsburgh. I think he's not filling the net, but I kind of like their mix of guys. I like how they're built. You look at different potential series they could go through, and with the offense they have, even if it dries up a little, they got great goaltending. They can be mean on the back end, or just hard to play against anyway. I don't know how you're stopping Quinn Hughes, especially at the rate he's going at. I'd like that team. I like him a lot. I like him more now after Lindholm, 2 goals.
Brian, the NHL's trade deadline is a month away now. You're a guy who has played deep in the playoffs a lot. You've played 124 playoff games, I think I saw before we had you on, which is just incredible. So what are guys feeling? Take us inside the room a little bit as you're on a good team and you're heading towards this deadline. obviously you want to get better, but you don't want any of your buddies to get shipped out. What is that sort of dual emotion like?
Yeah, you really have to have a singular focus, and it might sound selfish to people who haven't been through it. Kyper probably knows, but you have to be a little selfish in your own play in terms of how you prepare and how important it is for you to do well in those games leading up to the break. And that's, if everyone does that, and it's not like I need points or I need this. It's just I need to be ready. And, if you're married with kids, sometimes they take the brunt of that, and they will all the way through to the end of the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's just a mindset of like really dial it in, be focused. You don't want to get moved out. You don't want to get shipped out. You want to show the brass that you can add here, but you shouldn't take anything away because look what we have. And you like it when they add, even if it's like maybe might cut into some of my minutes, whatever it is, you try to prove to your coach you shouldn't do that, but you need everybody. You need 25, 26, 27 guys if you want to go on a real run. And when the team's adding that, it's a great feeling around the room. The boys kind of just know you're preparing, you're getting ready. Everybody's kind of holding each other accountable a little bit more for details of the game. You really want to sharpen up. And those were exciting times. The stress goes up a little bit, but I mean, it's exciting because you have more to play for.
So which team, in your opinion, needs to kind of counter the Vancouver Canucks moving forward here? We saw the Edmonton Oilers halt their winning streak, but is this a team that's still maybe a move away here?
Yeah, I think if it's sort of a copycat league, right? What has given teams success? A certain kind of playbook on what has won or is advanced anyway. And you look at the two teams in the final, if you can ever add that, sometimes that ends up being a number 6 on the D, or a 5 or 6 on the D, or a third line or fourth line center, just to add into the mix, or a guy with sort of a personality or an energy that'll bring you into the fight in some of those games where in a 7-game series, if you're down 3 in game 2, that game might be over 4 now, I guess, this year, because there's so many comebacks. But if you're down 4, I mean, that game might be over, but you can still inflict a little bit of pain. And I don't care what anyone says, or I don't care what anyone thinks. That's still a big part of the playoffs, that physical intimidation.
Oh,
obviously, but that is definitely on everyone's mind when they're going through it. So I think as a GM, if I'm a GM, I'm getting I use him as an example. I don't think he'd go anywhere, but Luke Schenn would be a guy I'd always look at. Somebody like that, a third or fourth line guy. Obviously, if you need a first line right winger or a power play guy, you try to do that. But the way the cap is now with all these teams so tight to it, it's hard. Those, much of them, a lot of times they don't, and they end up being a big factor.
Last one for me, Brian. Just want to get your thoughts on your New York Rangers. This is a team I can't quite make heads or tails of. They're first in the Metro, though. What's their status? How do you like their team this year?
I like them, and a lot of the things I've said already is what they kind of need to kick into gear.
Yeah,
there's emotion there that they sort of haven't had. There's nights where it's maybe not going their way, and a lot of times they can score it well, and when it's not, there's a bit of a lull or a drop, or you can honestly see it from the television on the bench sometimes, where they just kind of get down. And I'd like to see maybe that personality, that anger, that somebody who's going to go stir it up, go in there and kind of the team of feed off that. They went to the conference final a couple of years ago. They got Vetrano, they got Kopp, they got these guys. They had Reeves there, so Lafreniere was playing a certain way he was running his mouth in the play. I remember all that because I played against them. And that is the emotion that they need. They lack that emotion sometimes. It's not on paper. They're built very well.
Mm-hmm.
They could add a little depth on the bottom 2 lines, maybe, just because there'll be injuries. But for sure, maybe one more gritty guy on the bottom 6 that can just be a little bit of a game changer with some physicality. I love their team on paper, but that emotion, that collective, like when it's not going well, they can change things. If they can turn that switch on somehow, they're going to be tough to beat as well.
Be interesting to watch down the road. Hey, Brian, really appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this, man.
You got it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
That is Brian Boyle. How many teams? 8
A lot of teams. The Rangers and Lightning were sort of the big ones where I remember him. He had 4 years there, kept 5 years, where his playoff games played 17, 11, 25, 25, 17 playoff games.
And a total of what did you say?
124.
That is
awesome. A lot of
ton
playoff
of games. I snuck in, I think, 36 maybe.
That's a lot, too.
And
It's not nothing.
I'm like, they
Those
are
wars.
so fun.
Yeah.
Oh.
Those
What
are
I do
long
to play
years in a
one
row.
more Stanley Cup playoff game.
I'll never forget. It's very early in this trajectory of Leafs fandom, but when he set up Kasperi Kapanen in double overtime against the Caps,
Yeah.
one of my favorite Leaf goals ever.
Same. I think about that one a lot.
Where he's coming around
Just-
behind the net, he stops, turns it back, and Kapanen's
Cappy
there
one
wide
touches it.
open, and just shoots it right in the net. And it's as excited as I've been as a Leaf fan in a very long time.
Boyle, 6'6", 245.
Yep, big man.
Are you of the belief that like Lindholm's just going to take Vancouver to whatever level they were? It's going up a notch.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, definitely. I definitely think that. I feel like when you have as much dynamic, exciting talent as Vancouver, sometimes you just need some guys that you could really trust, right? You just feel like you can put them on the ice in all situations. They're not going to lose their minutes. That's Lindholm for me. He might get you the goal. He might make the defensive play. Just whatever the circumstance, he's a guy you're like, all right, we can put him on that line. We can put him over the boards, and having more of those guys when you're a coach, ugh, what a luxury.
Last night, with the goalie pulled for Carolina, I forget the line that was out there. It was JT Miller, and I think he was taking the draw. He called off JT Miller, and he sent Elias Lindholm out there to take the draw. He wins the draw, gets it out, goes down the other way, and he goes off the ice. It's like that's the guy's first game.
And
he's
blocked a shot, I think, late in the game.
And he's
too.
up. He's on the power play, first game, 2 power play goals. It's like maybe Sheldon's like, you could try one of the new guys in the power play for once. You know,
Yeah.
it's like first. I know he's not Bertuzzi, isn't Elias Lindholm or whatever, but you just see that you're like, oh, that's allowed.
Something different.
That's allowed.
I'm sure Sheldon
new
listening
guy?
is going, sure, bring me Lindholm and see how I use
Well,
him.
but yeah, you don't think Bertuzzi could stand where he stood and tip a couple in the net?
I think he could.
So
I think he has.
not to make it about the Leafs, but I was just really impressed with Lindholm's debut last night.
For
Looked
sure.
awesome.
Well, then, how far off can Kuzmenko be? Because not only did he score, but he contributed to a pretty impressive win in Boston,
Stunner.
4-1.
Stunning, because the line, I don't know if we openly made fun of the line.
You made fun of me for
What's
a
that?
winning bet yesterday.
Yeah. Well, listen, Huberdeau, Sharangovich, Kuzmenko did not inspire a ton of optimism, but last night they played 10 minutes. Expected goals for, they controlled 70% of the expected goals in those minutes.
Go figure.
How about
Stupid
Jonathan
sport.
Huberdeau's goal? Like, how
loved
can you score a goal like that?
He is so skilled.
And some other times look like you don't know where the net is.
I don't know.
It
He
was-
gave a goal and 2 assists last
It was
night.
like it was a goal scorer's goal.
I forget who said, anyway, the idea that you could trade for a player and not just what you would get in the addition of Kuzmenko, but could it help Huberdeau? Could this be a line where it just works for him and all of a sudden you get a better Huberdeau too in the deal? Like that would change things for the Flames. They
But it
ran Boston show.
must drive us crazy watching that.
Yeah.
Where you're like, what? You can do that? Why don't
Yeah.
you do that more often?
That's
it's
still
like
an option.
yeah, I
That's
don't
his 7th goal of the year.
I was impressed with the Flames. Like, I don't know, they trade away Lindholm. I haven't watched every Flames game this year, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better performance than that.
That was
First
the best of
game,
the year. I've watched a lot too. That's
I mean, they dominated.
on the road.
Kadri, 3 assists.
Yeah, did you see his quote?
It's a pretty good one.
You want to read it?
A pack of hyenas can take down a lion.
Love it.
This is going to be the slogan for the Flames. They're
When
gonna
they
be a
turn it
pack of
around,
hyenas.
when they turn it around,
That
and
was
print the shirts.
that was the Panthers last first round.
How far out of it are the Flames? Really far.
I mean, they're trading everyone good. So
Well-
whether they're close or not, I don't think it matters.
And then there's this whole Noah Hannafin thing, just in terms of the sense that
Not
he
far
had a contract decision to make after the All-Star break.
And it doesn't seem like he has signed
Doesn't
that.
seem like he's going to sign it as of today. I don't know. Who knows what tomorrow brings?
The Flames are really not out of it.
No, they're not. They're 3 points out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, it's the Seattle Kraken, Nashville
hard
Predators,
as it
and St. Louis
is,
Blues.
The hard decision, too, is like big picture here or.
Well, definitely big picture, but.
Okay, then you got to move bodies out.
But they got a body back in Kuzmenko. Like, you bring bodies back who help.
When they trade Tanev for Liljegren, then there's another NHL guy that you can put in there.
Perfect. Listen, if you're the Flames, that's not the worst in the world. I mean, as part of the package.
Tanev's not Lindholm, guys, but Hannafin could get you a roster player back for sure. Yeah, that's more in the mix of you're getting a 26-year-old that includes 3 pieces: a first player on the roster, maybe a prospect.
They should absolutely do that.
If you're the Flames, you're licking your chops.
Yeah, that Zari.
Tanev can't bring you that back because of his age, but Hannafin can.
I like Hannafin.
They're definitely could bounce back next year. Canucks, not as good as the Canucks model, but like not be in this mix again.
I think it also depends what they do with these assets. Like, okay, so they get a bunch of picks and they trade all these guys we're talking about. All of a sudden, you got this stockpile. You don't have to sit there and draft and wait 5 years to be good. You can turn those into players. Yeah. So I'm curious to see how aggressive they'll be.
With those contracts in the book with Kadri and Huberdeau, that's more the direction you might want to go. You still have a good goalie, some good defensemen. Like, it's not a tear down roster to me. No. But anyways,
you guys have one more Calgary conversation on Jacob Markstrom?
Yeah, I just made a passing comment there. I think something happens in the crease still. Whether it's a Markstrom trade or Vladar.
I got to think they're really tempted to move him.
Yeah.
L.A.
would like him.
New Jersey. Like, you've got a strong market.
Yeah.
There's a market out there. Philly needs a goalie.
Funny, too, we've been talking so much about the Penguins as a likely playoff team. The Devils have the same amount of points as the Penguins and just a ton of talent on the roster. They've been hurt a lot. Like, Jack Hughes will come back at some point. If you added a goalie.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
For New Jersey. A Markstrom.
But, I mean, from the goaltending perspective with them, though, don't you think that you have Wolf, who is your goalie in waiting?
Yeah.
You have Vladar. I would just probably keep Markstrom and have Wolf be your backup and kind of do the thing where you kind of like, it's the pedigree thing, like you would with like Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre, where it's like he plays behind him for a couple years, you let him go.
Go get pieces. Go get assets.
Yeah, but
I'm with you there because Vladar and Wolf.
Yeah. So
you're
just gonna
get more.
But you're gonna suck
a little bit.
You're gonna suck.
You're punting a little bit.
Yeah,
you're not winning the cup.
I just don't think they suck that bad.
They don't suck that bad.
And it's like you're in a Canadian market. I don't know.
They're not good enough to win either.
But we know.
All right. You guys can trade them.
The best way to dig yourself out is to either be good or really suck. You can't be that.
The Canucks are going to inspire a lot of teams.
I think, I do think there can be a bit of a rebuild on the fly here. Like, you trade off your UFAs, but if I'm them, I'm not trading Markstrom this year. Like, he's good. Like, they're not out of the playoff. I know they're not. I know they're going to trade Tanev. I don't know. You want to be out.
Yeah, sure.
You don't want a couple extra home dates? You know what you're saying?
The difference is, but I'm not. How old's Demko? Markstrom's 34, guys.
Yeah, he's older than you.
He's 34, Sammy.
Yeah.
His value will never be higher.
Trade him. I thought he was younger than I trade him.
Thank God I'm here for you, Sammy. And might I add, too, it's a national show.
I knew you.
Vegas Golden Knights hat.
The
really?
VGK hat.
Really?
People are pissed on the text line. Oh, you got to cheer against the Canadian team.
Yes, you do.
I do, yeah.
It is such a zag.
Do we need to have a meeting?
I don't care.
Well,
closed door meeting.
I mean,
Sammy.
Sit him down.
I might be getting a call from someone upstairs. I don't know. Listen. I've explained my case multiple times.
Sammy went to a game once, and now he's a super fan.
Not a super fan, but we'll root for them always in the Western Conference now.
Over the Oilers?
Of course. Are you crazy? People on this show know who I am. The only way I want the Stanley Cup back in Canada is down Yonge Street, boys. I've said it a million times.
It's good.
Vegas gives you a cheap bottle of champagne at your hotel, and now
they didn't give me anything. I gave them everything. Anyways.
All right, we doing game time or going to break?
No, I'll do game time. It's game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for the latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Now, I'm looking at the Stars tonight, who are pretty heavy underdogs against the Leafs.
They're under.
I think they're plus 110 against
They've
the
got
Leafs.
the best road record.
Yeah, they're plus 110. Leafs are minus 130 tonight
It's a
against the
little
Dallas
strange.
Stars. To me, this is an excellent opportunity to get a very good team at good value. And even though they don't have their starting goalie, Scott Wedgwood's been good for them. I think he's like 13-4-4. He's got a good record for them. It's not like he's terrible. And if you want to get a little spicier, Wyatt Johnson, local guy in Toronto,
I like
out
those
of
picks.
out of conference midweek game against the Leafs for the good team and an Ontario boy. This is a perfect storm for a Leafs loss with him scoring. So give me a same game parlay. It's plus 460, those two things happening.
Wow.
Yep, not too bad. Looking at the other good game tonight, Rangers hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning. Lightning are sneaky, kind of. They're floating around.
They're hot, man. They're
They're kind of
Is
back.
Vasilevsky back to being the best goalie in the world?
Yes. Yes, he is.
You're done already, right?
Yes, because he's the best goalie in the world.
So
My whole logic.
I don't mind the Tampa Bay Lightning plus 100 tonight at Madison Square Garden. I think it's pretty good value. Rangers obviously good at home, but Lightning kind of coming around, and I could picture them to just turn it into the Lightning again here, boys, in the second half.
Sure seems like it's happening.
Anyways, that was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Okay. Still plenty more on the Real Kyper and Bourne show, including news and notes. What's up, Sammy? You got your finger up.
I had a
Is that a
question.
foam
I had a
finger
que-
or
I
is
had a
that
que-
your real finger?
I forget things that I wanted to add because we were talking about goalies and you mentioned Demko. Was there a thing was it last year that people were like Demko was out
Tradable.
there?
Yeah,
Like,
no, there was some thought that he may not want to stick around, but this is when they all sucked and they all.
like, somebody have stolen
Everyone
him?
is happy to leave when they're losing.
Could somebody have stolen him from there?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, not on Jimmy Rutherford's watch.
All right. I was just watching that game last night, watching how good he was, and I was thinking
Yeah.
about it, and I remember that. But anyways, we can go to break now.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we come back. Jets Dylan to have a hearing on a hit last night on Penguins Achari. We'll get the boys' thoughts on that and plenty more still on Real Kyper and Bourne. Remember to always text us at 590-590. This is from Luke at Oilboy76.
Oh, no.
Tell Sammy thanks for hexing my oil with his picks yesterday and further rubbing it in with that awful hat.
This is objectively a great hat.
First off, that is one of the most beautiful hockey
It
hats
is
I've
a
ever seen.
phenomenal hat. And it's too, I can use it for golf too because it's kind of like thin. So
Yeah.
it's good. Like it's a
Oh,
great
great to
golf
hear.
bucket
Just
too.
give it to him, Luke.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Sorry
give
about
it to him.
Listen, they own you.
Listen, I support everyone being mad at Sammy, but Oil Boy is not the tag I wanted to hear it from. I don't know.
It's like hearing it's like Mitchie 55. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I got a tough time
I think
with
I know your opinion on this.
All right, the league announced Brendan Dillon will have a hearing with the NHL Department of Safety over a head hit on Noel Achari. Your thoughts on the hit, JB?
Not great, Bob. I do think that it was a genuinely tough timing hit. Like you're kind of coming horizontally at a player moving vertically, and it's kind of tough to pick that shoulder clean. So I don't think it's intensely malicious, but it's a bad hit. You can't people in the head. It's on Dylan to avoid that. So probably a couple games.
I think that's always the case, just in terms of the angle, right?
Yeah. You're not
And
straight.
if it's
tough.
avoidable angle for him.
Smaller guy too.
And the
Achari's shorter.
And the problem is, if it is at that risky angle that's tough to time, you can't be as reckless going in there. And Dylan was certainly reckless.
I do
Two
give,
games for me.
what's that?
2 games.
Yeah, I think for sure 2 games, maybe 3, depending on the injury report for Achari.
Yeah.
That's always a factor here. But I think Dylan's one of our best hitters out there.
Yeah, he's a little greasy.
He's really greasy.
Yeah. They got that Pionk too on
That
their
guy's-
back end. He's a little greasy too.
That guy's been he's got 2,000 hits he's been credited with.
Really?
Yeah, since, I don't know, he broke in the league 2012, 2013. He's never been suspended before. And this guy hits.
Mm-hmm.
And
There's a couple good hits last night. Did you see Zadorov Who'd he get on Carolina? He got someone really good on Carolina. Like, love it when that
Random
happens.
thing I questioned earlier this year, NHL hits have not been recorded in the same way this year, so the stats are all messed up. Remember I came on the show once and I was like, actually, the Leafs are second in hits this year. And it's like, no, they're not. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's some recalculating to be done there. Anyway.
Another thing, too, is like, who's counting these things?
It's
Like some kid they're giving like $12 an hour to
no,
and
it's like
free
Wilford
popcorn.
Brimley, who's enjoyed watching games since he was a kid and now has time to volunteer, and he's wearing the Coke bottle lenses.
Yeah.
Remember,
That's a hit.
remember,
That's who it is.
I remember being a kid going to Maple Leaf Gardens and just seeing like the oldest men
I know
as
they're
goal
lovely
judges.
guys. They're lovely. But
Lovely, but older than dirt and can't see past their hands.
I don't know. The home team probably went in.
But which color is that? Blue?
I think we've come a long way, haven't we?
We have.
I don't know. But did you see Marchand get lit up pretty good by Pospisil
Speaking of
last
hits,
night?
yeah.
Oh my
Pospisil.
God.
I will say the slow motion bails out Pospisil a bit because it's all glove. It looks like he goes in stick, but it's a bad hit.
Oh yeah, but
Not suspendable, though.
Marchand's standing
I think
in the
it's a
crease,
game. I think it's a game.
smashing the covered puck. Like he's slashing. At some point, you reap what you sow.
Sure, he.
Wow, can you
he
imagine
did
if it was
some
flipped?
Reaping
Oh,
of
he
his
would-
sowing.
Everybody
You're
be
not
screaming.
allowed to then go murder him.
You got kicked out of the game. That was
Yeah.
fine. That was fine. Punishment.
You're right. You're right. It was a stiff penalty for a
Yeah.
stiff play, but I'm just saying it's not like you do a thing so people are allowed to do a thing.
Well,
you
correct me
should.
if I'm wrong here, but the guy that's slashing the goalie with a reputation for not being the most honorable fella,
Yeah, he might eat one in the chops.
your time comes.
Sure.
And his
yes,
time came.
But this is separate from we shouldn't penalize the guy who did chop eating.
Oh, I'm okay with him getting penalized.
Chop feeding.
Chop
What
feeding.
are you, 5?
5 in a game.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough.
There we go. Perfect.
Arizona. Kind of the news a little bit today. Hearing anything?
Yeah. Well, just this kind of floating feeling like there was some sort of not a soft deadline around NHL All-Star where they had to get their crap in order.
And is there crap in order?
And I think Commissioner Gary Bettman's trying to find that out right now.
Yeah.
Somebody had suggested that he may be in Arizona or on his way to Arizona to get answers.
Yeah. Well, just hearing some of the reporting on it, I guess I didn't realize this like deadline you're talking about was, I thought it was like, they needed a lease agreement by then, or they're going to do the next annoying bureaucratic red tape thing. But it sounds like it's actually getting serious in terms of like ownership.
Well, we heard from executive director of the NHLPA, Marty Walsh, and he's like,
Today's the deadline.
He's had it,
Yeah.
right? He's absolutely had it.
Any day past today is
Yeah.
too
When's
long.
the
It's
deadline?
too
It's
long.
right now.
And I think now probably Gary and Bill Daly are like, okay, we'll find out what's happening for sure. And if it's concrete, then I guess we put pen to paper. And if it's not, then we move on.
So
now there's a couple
what
of
does move on?
well, there's a couple different options, including Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
The question is, does Alex, the owner of Arizona, have a chance to sell to him straight? Or would Gary pull the franchise back, clear up his debt, stroke him a nice little check, and then the owners basically are of the Arizona Coyotes and can sell and
The league
hit their
would be,
hit their billion mark or their 1.2 or whatever he's willing to pay.
it would be pretty egregious to feel like Arizona could spin their wheels in the desert, play in a college hockey barn, then let the owner turn around, make $500 million on a sale or whatever. He wouldn't buy the team for 600 or something.
Not great optics.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
So I wonder if, the league wouldn't be involved at some point. I guess I didn't realize that the potential for the end of this ownership group in Arizona is nigh.
Is there a chance for it to not be there to start next year? Is it get that quick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
If they find a suitable building that can accommodate them, then there's a chance that it could happen that quickly. It's really no different than Atlanta to Winnipeg all over again.
Yeah, that was a one.
It's just it's not happening, it's not happening, it's not happening, and then it is.
And then it is.
Yeah.
And we know Winnipeg had their building ready and willing and able.
And Salt Lake has a building that they can.
I do believe so.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can host them.
Well, they got where the Jazz play. Is that
Yeah.
this? Is it the same? It's the same ownership, right? So there you go.
I believe so.
I played in the East Center in West Valley there. I think it holds 14,000. It's a big rink. Okay, certainly more than Mullet Arena.
And I'm not hearing the city Houston's going away, and I'm not hearing Atlanta's going away either, just in terms of the talk and the attention. And Atlanta's got Anson Carter behind that push.
Atlanta and Houston
Yeah.
and Salt Lake City. How
Rich.
how soon? Like
Well, there's no building right now in
2028?
Atlanta, so I don't know how that plays out. Would they play somewhere else temporarily and then wait for a new building to come in? I don't know.
Oh,
I don't think so.
no.
Not based on their history of failing twice.
can't be temperate. You can't.
If
you're moving
Georgia,
if
it's
you're
like-
moving this team, there can't be any temporary involved.
yeah,
It's got to
Yeah,
be
big
to
wave
the-
of excitement
to
and a
where
name
you're
and a
going
home and a
with the rink. That's NHL capacity class. You can't be like, we're moving out of Mullet Arena to another rink that we may not be at for a long period of time. Like it's a professional
like
hockey league.
Seattle's never going anywhere.
Yeah.
They have a home and a
Yeah.
culture already.
Fan base. Yeah, exactly
It's
right.
what you need.
Yeah, big time.
So I don't think we're going to hear anything, especially around Super Bowl, but maybe they got to update that situation. I think the league kind of shied away from it. They were
Vague.
pretty happy to share how many emails or applications they may or may not have.
Yeah.
Classic Gary.
That was
Everyone
That was
wants to
easy.
be in our league.
That's a pretty good.
It's a Gary trademark.
It is.
all right. What else is tickling your fancy? Pulley
So-
RV,
I'm not that
is
tickled
he
by that.
getting another chance?
2
with-
years with the Pittsburgh Penguins and Kyle Dubas.
What do you got?
800.
Surprised 2 years.
Like who you outbidding?
Is
Yeah.
it a
The
two-way
second.
contract?
I don't think it is. Can we cap friendly that real quick?
Yep, no problem.
I should have had that, but
Is there a minor league clause in it?
here is what our own Jason Bukala has to say about his time in Wilkes-Barre. There it is. Basically, that he said he was creating offense in a variety of ways. Still needs to prove it at the NHL level, but he's been boxing out opponents, been moving well on open ice. He's shown he can pull away from opponents and take pucks to the net off the rush. Pittsburgh's looking for anything. The Penguins are. The Dubas just went to the Yellow Leafs. They're top heavy. They need someone who can help. He's $800K.
The Yellow Leaf.
I don't know. Maybe.
What are they going to do with Gensel?
I don't know. Are they going to do something?
Well, yeah, I think the right thing to do is to trade him.
Yeah.
But I don't think
1 month now.
Kyle can look at Sid Crosby in the eyes and do that. This might be like,
Are you lose Crosby?
Kyle
Trade Gensel and lose
versus-
Crosby right away?
well, you're gonna piss him off. Is that what you mean by losing him?
Well, yeah. You don't want to piss off Sid.
No.
You want to be on the same team. Yeah, I don't know. Not sure there. So
Oh, you're gonna bring up the power play stuff.
I was gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday we were talking about the Leafs and their power play time on ice and how they're
Yeah.
big dogs just don't get off the rink. It seems like, but it really has become a trend, right, around the NHL. And so
Over the last few years, it just seems like it's been easier for the big dogs to eat up
yeah.
the 2 minutes.
So I sorted just forwards in the NHL by power play TOI percentage. So the percentage of the team's power play time that they're on the ice. And there was something hilarious in there that I wanted to give you. Top 5 is Pasternak, plays 79%. McKinnon is 79.6 at 4th. 3rd is Rantanen. So Colorado, the big guys are out there a lot. Kucherov is 2nd, 84% of the Tampa Bay Lightning's time. And Alex Ovechkin is 1st at 96%. A full 12% ahead of 2nd. He is on the rink
And that's
the
been for
entirety
like
of the power play.
15 straight years.
Yeah. And they're like, I'm sure Carberry came in and was like, on the breakout, you're going to come back in our end. And he was like, no. I'm going to stand on the blue line.
He went out there with a Sharpie and drew. He's like, this is where I am.
I go from the top of the circle to the blue line to stay on side and back to the top of the circle. 96% of the power play time. Which is wild.
Egregious. He's got 10 tucks all year.
Was that, yeah.
10
He's
goals.
up to 10 now in the season, which is on pace for 18 goals.
I don't know how Carberry and the coaching staff now move forward for the next year and a half, because it's almost as if you got two thoughts here, that I got to build a team that can win or set a culture up that is going to move our program forward, or we got to break a record for Wayne Gretzky. It's like one of the two.
Ovi has to be on the power play in that spot. He has to be out with the net empty.
But you can't have both. You can't walk into a room and give the guys the feeling that we're going to give our team the best chance to learn and be better and build a culture here, and we got to get them the record too.
Yeah.
You're so right. It's like that's a impossible coaching job.
Impossible.
It is.
You have to pick.
Yeah.
And right now, I think they're picking Ovi.
They are picking Ovi. Ovi makes 12.5 in total salary this year. 9.5 is the cap hit, but he makes that next year and the year after too. You know, obviously, if he's going to be a guy who gets 20 goals a year and you have to play him 2 minutes of your power play, that's tough. Tough to have success.
That's your identity now.
Yeah.
You are
the
the
Ovi
record
chasing team.
Yeah.
If you're everyone else in the room, how do you not resent that?
Oh, listen, like guys are trying for contracts, and this is the part that can upset the apple cart, because we're going to go back to your power
hoping
play.
This was quick, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Is that like you're taking up 2 minutes of the power play? It's what you're leaving the rest of the team and the vibe that you have it. So if you're super successful, there's only one way it works: is every time you're out there,
you're the best.
You're the best. You're scoring. Our team has a better chance at winning. Like the rest of the bench have to just shut up.
Yeah.
But if it's not working all the time, and there's sometimes when you're tired at the end and you give up a breakaway or the guy jumps out of the box and scores, that's when half the bench goes, come on.
Yeah, that's when you're giving your coach the one eye. Like,
yeah,
we're okay with this.
You're okay with that, and you're just going to keep feeding that. Then you lose half your bench.
Yeah,
so true.
It is funny looking at the top power play percentage time on ice guys, like by percentage of their team. There's clusters, right? Like the Lightning guys are out there a lot. Draisaitl, Nuge, and McDavid are 8, 9, 10. They're 76% roughly of their team's time. Canucks guys are right behind that. Leafs guys are in the high 20s, 26, 28, 29 at 71%. But I do have some data that they're taking long shifts to get there. So it's not like they're getting a lot of shifts. They're just staying
Interesting
out there.
stuff. Listen, yesterday we didn't mention it, but I want to mention it today. One of my heroes, Lanny McDonald, of course, on his way back home from All-Star Weekend, he mentioned having a cardiac event after arriving back at the Calgary airport. Lanny, we love you. We hope you're on your way back.
Absolutely.
The triple thumbs up here from the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. And
tough guy.
Happy anniversary to another idol of mine, Daryl Sittler. 48 years ago tonight, 10-point night. Another memorable night for yours truly.
Mitchie's going to, for yours truly. You out there or what?
No, but I watched.
Oh, you loved it.
You guys were sperm.
Sorry.
You guys were nothing but sperm
maybe a
back
Leaf
then.
player will match it tonight.
That'll never be broken.
Enjoy the night's games, and we're back tomorrow.